am seriously nauseous from this market. It's out of control. What is going on? Welcome back to another video. I'm Hans Struzyna, and oh man, I've got some stuff to share with you today. In this market update, I want to talk about a couple things in particular. Most poignant are some of the things I'm seeing on the ground, some actual stories of bidding situations that I've been in personally through representing buyers and sellers that I want to share with you to give you a sense of where we're at today. Also, definitely want to talk about the rates, mortgage interest rates specifically, and how they've gone up and what that's actually done to our real estate market. So let's go. So first story. Representing a buyer here in Oakland, specifically they're looking in Temescal, which if you know anything is kind of located between Piedmont Ave, Noby, and Rock Ridge. So it's been an area that historically has not sold for as high of a price per square foot as any three of those neighboring areas around it. We're looking at this really fantastic 3-bed, 2-bath, roughly 1,700 square foot single level Craftsman, and knew it was going to be competitive, but looked at the comps really closely and figured, hey, you know, there are some similar houses that sold near Piedmont Ave and some similar houses that sold in Rock Ridge, and they got into the roughly $850 a square foot, which put those properties somewhere in the mid 1.5 to 1.6 million range, which makes sense if you know those neighborhoods. They're pretty in demand and have been for a long time for a variety of reasons, but that's besides the point. Those are higher neighborhoods. This one, Temescal, traditionally is not. However, when we come on to offer day, I find out that there are 21 offers, which is crazy in the first place, but there are 21 offers, and we decided to come in significantly above the comps. We were at, like I said, $850 a foot was pretty typical for some of these other neighborhoods, and you really struggled to find that same value here in Temescal. So we came in somewhere closer to $820, $830 a foot, which is still, mind you, a premium by 20 or 30 bucks a foot for that size of house in Temescal. I come to find out that our offer of a premium price per square foot over the comps is in the middle of the pack. And as a matter of fact, that offer put us somewhere in that 1.4 world, low 1.4 world. And it was, I mean, smack in the middle almost of the 21 offers. The top 4 offers, the 4th place offer, I have on good authority, came in with an escalation clause that got them as high as 1.65, which is well in excess of $900 a square foot for this property. And they were told that they were in 4th place with a crazy premium offer. I mean, seriously, what universe are we living in where that is normal? Okay, so back to the story. They're in 4th place. Immediately, they go back, they redraw their offer, and they added $75,000 to an already outrageous offer to get them over 1.7 million. Now, I want to paint some context for you here. 1.7 million is not unheard of for some really high-end areas in Oakland, and especially not for a 1,700 to 2,000 square foot home in some of those really nice neighborhoods. However, this is Temescal. This is not one of those neighborhoods. It's a secondary neighborhood. This is usually where you go when you can't quite afford Rock Ridge and you can't quite afford Piedmont Ave, because it's really close, it's urban, it's walkable, it's super cool, there's a great restaurant scene, it's awesome, but it's not a 1.7 neighborhood historically. But now it is, because the winning bid got well over 1.7 million, which is absolutely insane, because that puts this property at almost $980 per square foot, which is $180 more than the average property in Temescal, and even almost $100 in some cases more per foot than Piedmont Ave and Rock Ridge. It blew my mind. And not only that, but it was someone who had a substantial amount of cash. So it's going to close at this insane price, and it's now going to set a new comp. That begs the question, when is this all going to stop? Because eventually people are just going to stop paying these crazy prices. Well, I have a listing over in Trestle Glen at the moment, and I was speaking to another agent who had a similar competitive listing that took offers just a couple days ago. And I wanted to see what her competition was like. And she told me that she had a couple of very interested people coming over from San Francisco who were really keen on this neighborhood, Crocker Highlands, Trestle Glen area in general, and ultimately got beat out on a couple of houses, were zeroing in on hers, but eventually decided not to put an offer in because the prices that they were seeing were not good enough deals for them to actually move over to the East Bay. which is interesting because it's the first time I've heard that. And so traditionally what's been happening, especially since COVID has started, is a lot of the San Francisco and the peninsula buyers are coming over to the East Bay because the price per square foot is generally better, and you could make an argument that the lifestyle is improved. You can get a full single family house with a yard that's walkable in a price point that you would otherwise have to get a 1-bed or a 2-bed condo somewhere in the city for. That's starting to change, especially in some of these really cool hip neighborhoods, and eventually that buyer pool is not going to accept it. And it's happened on this one house that was over in the Trestle Glen neighborhood, is they ended up losing 2 of their best top buyers who decided just like, hey, San Francisco's looking like a pretty good deal all of a sudden, I'm gonna stay over here and buy something instead. So that begs the question, when is it all gonna change? I had a feeling, and apparently it was incorrect, but I had a feeling that the bump in mortgage interest rates might be the thing that pushed that first domino over to get people to reconsider bidding so much. Any of you who are on my newsletter and subscribe to my market updates might remember me posting about that, and you might have seen that from the lender who did your refi and something on YouTube about interest rates going up. People are still getting 30-year mortgages at or around 3%. They were well into the low 2s, but anytime something goes up, buyers always react negatively because it means for the same amount of money they have to pay more, or for the same payment they get less buying power. One way or another, it makes a difference. However, because there is so much cash circulating in this market, I have yet to see it slow anybody down or give anyone any pause at all whatsoever, which is sort of shocking, to be totally honest with you. But to put all of that into context, if you can still get a 3% or right around 3% interest rate, that's really freaking good. And here's why. Because when you look back over the last 5 years of average interest rates across the United States, you can see that you've been in 2016 at 3.65, you've been almost at 4 in 2017, 4.5 2018, almost to 4 in 2019, and now in 2020 you've been down close to 3 anyways. So through all of that time, we've had really intense competition, we've had really strong sellers markets, and buyers still paying really high prices. And so when you look at that average, we're still well below all of that, and the inventory is still really low. So you're still strongly in a seller's market where the buyers still have really, really good buying power. So clearly I don't have the crystal ball here. I think that goes without saying. But what I have is some data. Something that really caught my eye, I was browsing through the California Association of Realtors website, and they do a really nice job of pulling together a lot of data and putting it into really understandable infographics and slides and that sort of thing. And this one caught my eye, so I'm gonna throw this up for you to look at. And what you can see is the last almost 6 years here of data of single family resales, median prices, and affordability index, and what has been happening. So interestingly, you have seen actually more single family resales in 2020 than you did the previous year. You had a positive change, and you're looking like you're gonna have a positive change this year. However, what you're seeing is, look at that median price line going up. It's going up pretty significantly, and we are now at the highest median price in the state of California we've ever been at, over $700,000 as the median home. And then when you look at the affordability index, which has a lot to do with both the interest rate, how much you can actually afford for that same payment, but also the wages, the real earnings, the savings, the salaries, all of that stuff that people are making. You look at the affordability index, and that's been going down as of late. It's trending downwards, and it's lowest this year as it's ever been. And so now the question is, when will it break? When will it stop? Frankly, I wish I had that answer. I don't. But what I can tell you is that there is always a breaking point. There's always a point at which people stop transacting and people stop climbing over one another. Anecdotally, right now, all of my inspectors and all of the appraisers and all of the stagers, all those people are booked like crazy. It's hard to get a hold of anyone to book them to get out to prep a listing right now, which is good because it means that inventory is not that far behind. So when inventory starts to rise to meet it, it'll be really interesting to see if there is a flatlining of this effect or if people just keep climbing. And lastly, the sellers that I'm talking to and my team are talking to, they're eager to get on the market before this opportunity escapes them, which is also interesting because it's showing the psychology of opportunism, of trying to grab it while the grabbing's good, if you will. And so What that does ultimately is to be determined, of course, but I'm hoping that this rush in inventory will satisfy some of this aggressive buyer pool because it will give them more options and it will create some opportunities for people who are right on that fringe to be able to transact as well and maybe take some heat out of this market. Now, one last thing is we very much are in a typical spring market. This right now in March of 2021, this is normally, with the exception of last year and COVID, when we experience our hottest market here locally. So it's not uncommon that we would see the highest prices and the biggest records and the biggest sales happening in March. However, this is taking things to a whole nother level. Where it stops, hard to say. And there is one narrative that I want to address here, and I'm going to link to the video that I did on this topic about people leaving California and the Bay Area, which is actually not happening in the same way that the narrative would suggest, but they are redistributing. I did a whole video on it, link to it up here, check that one out. But it will be really interesting to see if the population circulation continues or if people actually en masse do start migrating out of California. There are some other factors that are going into the population thing, and you should check the video out to learn more of those things. So where are we at today? We simply put, it's incredibly hard to find a property to buy that you can get at a reasonable price. They still exist, don't get me wrong, but they're really, really hard to find. And if you find a property that you absolutely love, you better be willing to seriously dig deep financially to get into it. And if you do, please, 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 make sure that you love that property and you know you're going to be in it for a long time, because if you pay what is required right now, you are going to be in that property for 10 or more years, because inevitably this thing is going to come down and then it'll flatten out and then it'll come back up. And if you're stuck in that downturn having to sell a property that you purchased way up here and it's now down here, you're going to have a really bad time right then. So seriously consider, if you're going to open your wallet and make that offer, do it on a property that you can definitely 100% for sure be in for 10 years. Otherwise, don't make the offer. You will thank yourself. So hopefully you guys got some value out of that. If you did, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to continue to put out content just like this every single week and you're not going to want to miss it. So without any further ado, this is Hans Struzyna with the Gunderman Group at Keller Williams Luxury International signing off for now. See you guys on the next one.